Good morning, good morning. So, work week has started. It's another nice Monday here in Gothenburg. And I ate something weird last night, so I feel like well, I might vomit at the gym today, but that's okay. Less calories, right? Anywho, so today I am going to see my services and we plan to write up the contract today, which is great because then I know what my next job is going to be for the foreseeable future, and I have, that's that one less thing to worry about. And then, of course, the not so fun part, which I don't like, comes where I have to contact a bunch of people and tell them, hey, no, I already found a job. But I hope it's going to, I think it's going to work out best this way, because the other jobs I've spoken to are the others are, they seem to be great places to work, but this place seems to have the thing that I want most in a place of work, which is it has a technology which I am fairly familiar with but not an expert in, and the opportunity to become an expert, or at least very proficient in it through practical learning by doing and all that stuff, which is exactly what I want. It's the it's well, the term I like to use for that, it's kind of like investments, if you will. So I argue that it's great if you specialize yourself as a developer, if you become a really proficient in a single thing, it's going to show in your, well, for the most part, it's going to give you the opportunity of getting a very high salary at some point if you bet on the right thing. Because remember, if you bet on the wrong thing, nobody's going to pay for it. It's very I like to use Haskell as one of those examples. Haskell there's nothing wrong with Haskell, but if you are a master Haskell developer, odds are that you're not going to be able to do much with that. It's like in any profession. I mean, the demand and supply demand type of thing, right? But if you are a master Java guy or C# guy, odds are that you're going to be able to find a job where you're going to get a really high salary, because those are languages that are fairly popular among companies who have very deep pockets. Anywho, so that means that my opinion is that it's better to diversify yourself, to have a broader range and what you call it, spread out risk or something, I think. And that's pretty much what I want to do. It's not because I don't think so much about the future in terms of, oh, this is the right career move and this is I mean, if I wanted to just think about a career, it would make sense for me to go and work for Klarna, for example, because that would look nice on the CV, but I don't know. I think this is a better fit for me, because I'm gonna learn Scala, which is gonna be great, and it got me into this mode where these past few days I've been playing around with some frameworks, the Spray framework, and I kind of in the same breath started looking at going back to my Java roots and set up a Java enterprise project and played around with that. And it made me remember, because I always, you look at these things with, I don't know, I can't remember what the term is, but you remember things fondly just because they're in the past, but they're actually not, when you actually do it, you remember all the horrible things and the bad stuff. And in essence, that's what happened. I started looking into setting up things in Eclipse, for the Java enterprise stuff, and I was Now I remember, like, I mean, it felt great to kind of gotten so far, because last time I did this stuff, I was very, very green. And now I feel like I understand a lot of the stuff, but I also understand how horrible it is. It's so bad in comparison to most stuff that I do. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who is doing like Node, which is also fairly undeveloped, if you will, in many areas, but at the very least, it doesn't have the sort of problem that you have in Java, in just plain old Java. And the problem I perceive that Java has, and it still has today, is twofold. The first and foremost thing is that there is a massive assumption and overhead around in what I call inferred knowledge. There is so much stuff that is dependent on you already knowing stuff about the language and about the environment and all that great stuff. Like, as an example, if you want to set up a Maven project or something and so forth, it's great that you have like you have a lot of tools that will help you do that. But then you come into understanding how to map the routes and the naming conventions around that, because if you don't have the right name for your web XML files and the servlet mappings and all that good stuff, it's going to throw an obscure error which you can't find, or you will find a solution sooner or later, but it's going to be difficult for you to do that. And then of course, if you want to put up something even fancier, like you need to know that, you're gonna have to have a certain route, and you're going to have a certain version of like, I don't know, if you want something fairly modern, if you want to make a RESTful service, you can do it through the REST API, which is, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, I remember, like, that's much nicer than, it's a nicer experience of setting up things than a servlet, but it's still, I don't know, it's still a lot of obscurity and a lot of things that you have to figure out in order to get all this stuff to work. And then you have deployments, and I mean, it's in comparison to Node, where you literally have a single file. That if you want to put up an Express application, a complete beginner who has never ever done anything with it, I'm fairly certain that I can get them up and running with a Node server in less than 5 minutes. I'm fairly certain. What I can tell you is that that's not true for a Java developer or a beginner Java developer. I don't think that you can do that, even if you rush it, because as I said, there's so much extra stuff that you need to do in terms of setup, in terms of have all these extra things. And I don't know, I think there's a value in this, that it's easy to start, it's easy to get going, and I think that it's just so sad that you kind of lost that. The worst part about it, which I find very frustrating, is that you want to talk to me about diversity. Like, a lot of people talk to me about how horrible it is that they get JavaScript fatigue because every other week there's another framework. Every other week there's something new to learn. And then I look at this, and I revisit Java, and I did what I tipped you guys about. I have no idea these days what Java people are doing in their daily work. I know the tools, and I know like roughly what's on the map, but I don't know what the companies are using. So I went out on the job ads and I looked, and there, it may be a little bit smaller, like narrower in terms of what they use, but not much. I mean, there's a ton of diversity. I watched like 10 or 20 ads, and of those 10, 20, it was fairly the same deal as with JavaScript and Node. A lot of diversity, a lot of different packages, and I mean, So in terms of like solid packages, yes, I agree. Like Java seems to have some very solid packages that are long-term supported, but they also have a very diverse ecosystem. I mean, I still don't know what is like what's relevant and what's not relevant. I know what's fairly modern and what's not. And what's even worse is that when you search for tutorials or you try to find resources that are fairly relevant. I mean, if you go on YouTube Java tutorials, at least for me, most of the stuff I find is at least 2 years old. Tutorials that are 2 to 3 years old, and they talk like, and that's a really bad thing, because if people are stopping to contribute to this is important. Like, it's important that there's an active community of people who are contributing value to this, and I just don't see that happening. Sorry, the bus is coming.